From the studios of the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, welcome to Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs.
Good day. I am Silveria Jacobs, and this is Prime Minister Talks. Today, we have as our guest the Secretary General of the Ministry of TEAT, Mr. Miguel de Weever. Miguel, welcome to Prime Minister Talks.
Thank you for having me, Honorable Prime Minister.
Yes, so as you know, the economy is very much spoken about, prices on St. Martin and the world, and how inflation is affecting all of us. And so I felt it pertinent, seeing that all that's going on, to have you here as the administrative professional in TEAT to explain to the people of St. Martin and help them to understand what is going on and how it can affect us and what we can expect for the future as well. So, first of all, thank you for being here, and explain to the people of St. Martin what it is exactly a Secretary General of TEAT is and does.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here to provide this opportunity to the public. Before we go into that, my job as a Secretary General of the Ministry is really to manage and oversee 7 different departments. It's a wide area of responsibility, from the Department of Meteorology, Department of Civil Aviation, Shipping and Maritime, Department of Statistics, Department of Economic License, the Policy Department of the Economy, Traffic, Transportation, Traffic and Transportation, the Department of Tourism, the Department of Economic Licenses, and the Inspection Department of TEAT. So it's 7 different departments, all with different areas of responsibility, and it's a lot. So.
And it's a lot, and a lot is expected of you as well.
Yes.
So one of the most important issues is really, how the pandemic and now the war in the Ukraine has affected inflation and prices in particular. So where that is concerned, what are the measures that the Ministry of TEAT is currently working on to combat this issue?
Well, this is a widely spoken about. Every day we hear it on TV. So, we being a country that imports everything that we basically buy on the island, you know that problem is going to eventually come to our shores, and it has. And so, two measures that we are looking at or that we have in place is to, in particular, encourage, we have the price comparison. So the department goes out and have a certain amount of items that we look at and compare the prices of the different supermarkets, and then we publish that. So it's on our site so that people can know where persons, which supermarkets can get which items cheapest, and even if you add up the whole total bill, you can see which one comes out to be the cheapest and stuff like that. So these are some of the things we're doing. We're also doing a price study to know, what will be the impact of having maximum prices introduced, but in anticipation of that, because one of the things we know already that the outcome or some of the recommendations coming out of that study is that, these measures can be done in a very acute situation. And obviously this international development is certainly one of those things where it is necessary and warranted. So we are going ahead and going in to introduce the maximum price items. We used to have it for 12 items. Now we're going to do it for 72 items so that persons can have a much broader set of items that they can purchase and be able to have an affordable basket of items that when they go shopping, that they can then it can be a little bit more affordable. So that's these are some of the measures that we're doing. And we will also be monitoring the prices that are not part of the 72 items, because those items we need to know if we have a maximum prices, are the stores then disproportionately or increasing their prices more higher on the other items that are not on the list. So those are the things that we are doing to make sure that prices are being reasonable. We're also enforcing that the wholesalers, the importers, submit their invoices so that we can know that the prices that they're being charged are based on invoice prices. So we're going to basically leverage ourselves as a government to make sure that the consumer gets the best price and for a period of time, so that to make sure that they're not taken advantage of.
Okay, I'm going to start by the first part you mentioned in terms of the price comparisons, because you said a lot. And so I know we need to break it down throughout today's program so that we can touch on on those, I think, 3 or 4 areas that you mentioned. But let's start with the things that I've been seeing already, and maybe the public as well. So maybe you can mention where the public can find these price comparisons.
Well, it is on our site from government. It is on our site. It was passed around as well. It's on Facebook page from EVT. So these will be, but we're actually even going to create an app that where persons can actually see the list of price comparisons. One, they're also going to see the list that we have of the maximum prices. They will also be able to do a lookup to see if what the price is supposed to be, so that if they are doubting whether or not the price is an accurate price, they can actually look it up. And if the price...
While shopping.
And if they, for example, want to submit and they notice that the price is, for example, more than what's there, they can actually take a picture of the item, make sure we can see the item, the name of the item, the size, the price, and then, of course, indicate which supermarket and the date. We can always then...
follow up.
We would definitely do a follow up. And if someone has even already bought the item, they will be able to then submit the same information with a picture, but they need to have the receipt. So, and where we could see it's dated, so that we can correspond it with the correct maximum price list. Because of course, over time, the maximum price will change. And so they have to make sure that they're comparing it with the current price. So that will be. That is some of the things that we're coming up with, and so that we can make it much more effective, because we only actually have like about 6 economic controllers. And for them, if we have 72 items, we have to look at different brands, different sizes, and 120 supermarkets with 6 controllers that have other work to do, because weights and measurements, price indication, see if persons have licenses. You know, it is a tremendous amount of work, and we appreciate the work that the guys do, but it becomes a lot. So the more eyes and ears that we have, helping us to monitor the prices to make sure persons are not overcharging or going over the maximum price, then the better. But I also want to encourage that a maximum price is a maximum price, and it doesn't mean that stores cannot have and offer the price at a lower price than what we've had established. So that is something that we'd also like to encourage and hope that they do as well, because I think everybody is aware of the situation. We all need this is really where we're going to put all hands on deck. And as a community, both the business community, but also our population, so that we can really weather the storm together, because this is imperative that, you know, and it's also beyond our control. And then for the sustainability, and as a tourism destination, you don't want to, for example, have your country being too expensive for your visitors.
That is a whole lot of information. I mean, I can't imagine that our first segment is already coming to a close. You've touched on quite a few topics, and I definitely have a few more that I want to delve into based on what you said in the first part. So if you've just joined us, this is Prime Minister Talks. We'll be right back after this short break.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Mr. Mara, it's me, Earthquake, coming in Tuesday around 10. No, sir. Earthquake does arrive unannounced, and when it comes, it'll shake all the sense and the sensibility out of we. Remain calm, stay inside, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Once the shaking start and you know it's an earthquake, make a quick move to a safe place. Don't run to the doorway or any exit, and the stairs that may be broke up or even full of people. Elevator, avoid that, because you might get in and then poof, power gone, and you're stuck in a box without air. Take cover under a strong table or a bed, or crouch against an inside wall or in a corner and cover your face and your head with your arms. Remember, DCH. Drop, cover, hold on. Glass windows and doors, outside walls in an earthquake, that is bad news. Take care of yourself. Most injuries during earthquakes happen when something drops and hit people entering or exiting a building. Last thing, don't bother run outside and ask, "You feel it? You feel it?" Remain calm, stay indoors until all the shaking stop, and do the DCH. Drop, cover, hold on.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Sedima and the government of St. Martin.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. I'm here with Miguel the Weever, the Secretary General of Ministry of TEAT. Miguel, we were having a very interesting conversation. I'm really hoping that the people of St. Martin could take in all that information you just shared. But I really want to go back to touch on, you mentioned we had 12 items already on a maximum price, which the majority of people know as a basket of goods. And we would know that based on way back in the past, so protected, people can get basic goods. After we had the pandemic, more things were added and we had temporary also controls. And after hurricanes, we have temporary controls, to avoid price gouging and so on. So what I want for you to go into is to explain about that, the basket of goods, and you've mentioned maximum price a few times, how that works, because I know a lot goes into coming to that maximum price based on the calculations you do now. So basket of goods, maximum price.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you for that question, Prime Minister, because I think it is very important that the issue of maximum price it's a very complicated or complex matter. It may seem, let's say, for the public, something relatively easy, but it truly is not, because one of the things, for example, we had 12 items, now we have 72 items. And these items, for example, are in different categories now. So because it's branched out to different, so that persons can basically buy average shopping, things like, beverages is like, when we say beverage, the different types of milk, tea, that stuff we used to have, We have things we put in bread for persons, so peanut butter, and jam, seasoning, so when the food, so where you can do your meals, your condiments, your ketchup and your mayonnaise and stuff like that, cooking oil and refrigerated goods, so things that are also vegetables, chicken leg, the quarters, so it's not all, it's, it's certain specific items which you will see on the list. Then you have canned goods, and you can have your peas and your, and the dry peas as well, pasta, potato and stuff like that. You have, flour, rice and all those kind of, it's a very extensive, we have baby products still on our list. We have hygiene products, even feminine napkins, toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrush, so that persons can really, the basics that they would have to buy on a regular, that those can remain and they can afford those basic items, even cleaning this liquid and clean material stuff.
Now is also
right. So,
high on the list of priority, yes.
And then when we talk about now the system, for example, because you can have a maximum price where, for example, do we do it where we have one price and it's across the board for all supermarkets for that very same item? And one of the challenges there, of course, in that system and that approach is that you have different people importing at different times. So what you don't want is that, this one is important at that time, this other one is important at a different time at a different price, because persons are getting their items from different places. Some import from the US, some import from Latin America, some import from the region, and they all have different prices. And so, that's one way of doing it. Or you can have a situation where, depending on where the individual stores or wholesalers and importers bringing their products from, then we give them a maximum price based on an invoice price that they have. When you have that system, then what happens is, like we did in the past, different places had different prices. So people were confused that they thought it was one price across the board for everywhere, when it was not really that way. It was based on their invoice, they will have a corresponding maximum price. And if people were concerned about it, then they would easily say, this person is not charging according to the maximum price.
But that's not what we're doing.
No. Right now, we're doing a flat price across the board, and then everyone will have to abide by that. And we will do periodic changes to the price based on market developments and the change in the invoices that they submit.
Okay. So I know we've had this discussion, so, I'm in the know, but the idea of this program is for the public to be in the know. And so the adjustment to the basket of goods, of protected items, in the sense of having a maximum price to avoid, let's call it price gouging, and excessive rises that are not warranted, can be better, is more efficient if we do have those invoices.
Of course.
Right? So soon, within the week, the public will be getting this official information as to what this basket of goods is. There will be a media campaign with that. The stakeholders, how involved are the importers in the current situation of setting the max price?
Well, we've had numerous discussions with them leading up to this process, and we had informed them basically of our plans. We've we've asked them, requested that they submit the invoices so that we can actually then do a calculation of the price that won't hurt them. Unfortunately, we didn't get the cooperation that we would have liked. So we know government has to do what it has to do, in particular with these times. And, the expectation is when you do this, now they will be coming with invoices, but we're also going to use the stronger arm of our law, which is the Customs Department, which that's going to demand and require them to submit invoices before the container can even leave. So that is going to be expected. And so we expect that the invoices will be submitted, and if we notice that obviously the prices are much lower, then those prices will then be adjusted, hopefully downwards, and then we will take as it goes and we will do it, but at least we'll have it in a very transparent way, because it can be just government being transparent and others don't think that they don't have to do it. So I think it's very important that, all hands on deck, if we're truly in this together, provide us with the invoices, and then we will do a fair calculation and a transparent calculation. As a matter of fact, our app, to make things efficient, they will have to provide the invoices to customs. But they can also, in advance, for example, when they know they're coming in with items that are higher, on the app, they will have a path that won't be directly linked to government, because we have to protect government systems that we don't get phishing and stuff like that. So they can submit new changes to prices that they have along with their invoice. That will be reviewed by only two persons. We have a dedicated email, maxprice@stmartingov.org, and that's where also some of the complaints will also come in. But for the max price, the importers, they will be able to use that email address where only two persons will see that email, the invoices, and then we will be able to take into consideration, calculate a new price ever so often.
All right. We are coming now to the end of our second segment. I think the information being provided is really interesting and important for the people of St. Martin to know. I like the fact that we are encouraging our citizens to be more policing and to inform. So I'm going to be coming back to you, Miguel, right after this break to give us some more information on how persons are able to report.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Did you know that the Consumer Price Index average over a period of 12 months in 2021 is 103.91 compared to 101.11 for 2020? This equates to an annual inflation of 2.8% in 2021. After a growth of 10.5% in 2019, the real gross domestic product decreased from 2.6 billion guilders in 2019 to an estimate of 2.1 billion guilders in 2020. This 17.9% decline was mainly due to the economic impact of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, our social and demographic data needs to be updated. Everyone needs accurate and reliable data to make an informed decision. If this is not the case, it can lead to faulty predictions, wasted time, money, and resources. Accurate data increases the level of confidence to make better decisions, enhances productivity, efficiency, and reduces cost. To conclude, accuracy and reliability make better data, which means a better life.
This message has been brought to you by the Department of Statistics and the Department of Communication.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. I'm here with Miguel the Weever, the Secretary General of the Ministry of TEAT. We have been very much breathing down their neck as a Council of Ministers, but I must say they are delivering in the sense of bringing some type of relief to the people of St. Martin. Price control is something that's very important. You do it all through the year, but you mentioned the acute situation we're in. And so I really want us to, as a people, understand that though it is a worldwide problem, that the government is doing what it can in this difficult time to ensure that we can afford to eat, but that price control grows across the board. There has been some discussion also on the controls of petroleum, so it's not just food, but as we are also in hurricane season, you're looking at goods, you're looking at construction materials and the like. So can you assure us on, that scope?
Okay. Well, yes, that's also part of the expansion of items that we will be looking at and controlling. We're obviously looking at what's also driving all of this inflation, and one of the key things is the price of fuel on the international market, because when vessels have to be transport goods, and that transportation cost is also rising, that is then being passed on in the form of prices of items. It is not necessarily the item itself isn't being increased, but it's really because of the fuel and transportation is really driving. Prices of, for example, on the international market are rising tremendously when it comes to fuel. So we are monitoring that situation, as well as we're going to be monitoring the price of hardware and materials as well, to actually also see whether or not we're being really overcharged. So based on the invoices and stuff like that. So those are things that we also are looking into, definitely.
Good. So it's clear to me, but I just wanted to ensure that the public understands that the max price right now is based on assessments of prices, but we're going towards enforcing what is by law already required of the wholesalers, etc., to report on their invoices. So what is actually coming into the island at what price? And then based on that, we'll be able to have a more effective cost analysis, etc., in terms of setting the max price.
Right.
So that's where we're going towards.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Great. And that is also, that's the way we do it with fuel already.
Right. Fuel is much more better and clearly regulated. I think the next step is partially what is the transportation cost? How is that transportation cost affecting the price of the item? Right. Maybe the item itself didn't really necessarily increase, but if you have the other cost factors, in particular transportation, and in particular with fuel, even with fuel, we have not given an increase to them for the transportation, but they have to bring in the fuel, and that is also accumulating. So these the transportation aspect has to be taken into account. So but as we will take those things and when we are provided with that information.
Right, and then based on information that has been provided with the recent hikes in fuel around the world, we can expect a hike here as well. That would come into play, but we are also expecting in the coming week some relief as well.
Yes, I think that we have a mixed bag of goodies, if you would call it that. Unfortunately, the price didn't rise for a period of time. I think somewhere from April, and the world market has risen much more since then. So initially we will have a huge jump because of that, but then we will then have the decision was made by the Council of Ministers to have the reduction of the excise taxes, so the prices will then go down, will go down, and hopefully that we've seen some prices on the international market that also somewhat dropping, and we hope that will also be experienced and have an effect on us. But fuel prices, I think we must mention as an element of the geopolitics, because after the war in Ukraine, what is the world going to do and how they're going to handle Russia after? Because Russia is a major producer of fuel or oil to, in particular, the European market. And where the sanctions now has about 2/3, they reduced their importation of oil from Russia by 67%. So after the war, Ukraine has ended. How will the world deal with Russia? Will they still penalize them and say what you did was not going to be still going to thing? And that still puts pressure on the supply for the rest of the world, And so it's going to be very interesting. Or they're going to just continue to say, okay, no, we could turn back on the valve, keep the flow of fuel from Russia, and then that will then flood the market, and then prices will then go back down to quote unquote normal levels. So
that's what we're hoping for.
That's what we're hoping for, definitely.
So the faster the war ends, the better for
certainly
inflation in general.
Right, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And I guess the faster we need to move to more sustainable energy as well.
Right.
But that's another topic for another day.
Right, that's right.
So I just wanted to confirm that the same way we do with the price buildup for fuel, will it be then evident within the other products of what, or so Economic Affairs would have an idea of what should be a price buildup, an acceptable price buildup to be able to set that max price?
That's where we will be going, yes, because I can imagine that we will take the simple approach and say the invoices plus your markup, the acceptable markup. And then the question is, how will we handle the real drivers of the cost, which is transportation in this case, and how, to what degree, and how these items had the transportation cost is related to these items, you know. So I think those are the things in the approach that we will take to make sure and keep prices fair, moderate, so that for both parties, you know, the business, because they have to pay and have employees and costs, but also for the consumer. I mean, that's our role as government. We balance both to make sure it's fair for everyone, and we hope and wish that we get their cooperation. And we also want to encourage the consumers that, you know, that they should be certainly shop around as much as possible, spend wisely. You know, one would have to consider what we can buy now, what we should buy later, you know, but also report on those violations so that we can then make sure that businesses stay within the margin of the products that we have. And so, but to be a smart shopper and realize that this is temporary and it won't hopefully last. We are hoping that it lasts for a short period of time, but, you know, be the smart shopper so that we can then all stretch our dollars for as much as possible.
Well, I want to thank you, Miguel, for joining us here on Prime Minister Talks. I know that we have plans to have even more of your department members come in. You did put them forward. Those are some of the drivers of some of what is happening now, and I'm very proud of what the ministry is able to do. I look forward to the compliance that you mentioned by our stakeholders. I think this is all in the interest of the greater good of the people of St. Martin. We don't have to wait for law enforcement to come. Provide the information as stakeholders that want to see fair distribution of wealth in St. Martin and understanding for the rising inflation, and whereas salaries haven't risen as such. So please take heed of the information that will be coming out of the Ministry of TEAT in the coming week as to what the maximum prices are for goods. This has been expanded to 72 products from 12, so there's many more things that you can buy, hopefully at a price that is more affordable. And as we continue to monitor that over the few weeks with the information we will get from the stakeholders, the importers, and taking those invoices into account, adjust as necessary as we move forward. We are all in this together, as Miguel said, and so I look forward to us being smarter, working smarter, and spending smarter to be able to sustain ourselves as we move forward. This has been Prime Minister Talks. Until next time, do join us once again. Be safe.